What would you do if your child was placed in handcuffs for crying at school? Well, this was a reality for a 7-year-old black boy in Missouri, and it isn't rare for black and brown kids across the country. Whether it's getting arrested for talking back or doodling on a desk, in-school policing is harming students by taking them out of school and helping funnel them into prisons.
1 out of 4 human beings with their hands on bars, shackled, in the world are locked up here in the
Still so traumatic to him that he struggles.
Cheyenne Johnson of Mount Pleasant, Michigan says her 12-year-old special needs son is still reeling after being falsely accused of bringing a gun to school and strip searched by school officials without consent on more than one occasion.
He does not have access to a firearm.
This incident, alongside other related incidents, are the subject of a $2 million lawsuit filed against the Mount Pleasant School District, accusing them of violating 12-year-old Xavier's civil and constitutional rights. Johnson says her son has often been the victim of racial bullying in his predominantly white school. And after the gun accusation and strip search allegation on November 21st of last year, Johnson says her son was also sent to in-school suspension without proof he had done anything wrong.
But I never got any suspension papers, no evidence of anything for any accusation that they made against him.
It's called the school to prison pipeline. We're talking about a structure of codes and punishments that criminalizes kids as early as preschool and increases their chances of ending up in the criminal justice system.
All right, here's a quote. It was so traumatic for him, he still struggles. That's what the mother said. Cheyenne Johnson is her name, the mother of a special needs 12-year-old. She says was strip searched at the school without her consent. Johnson says her son was accused of bringing a gun to school, something she denies, adding he does not have access to a firearm.
Pivot to you, Christina, because from a policy and legislation perspective, what's at your disposal to attend to this type of issue?
So Xavier, a student with disabilities, with an IEP, an individual education plan, and they were supposed to have service and support, so they violated their own policies and federal rules and laws. Plus, there is a set of Michigan compiled laws that speak specifically regarding seclusion that they violated. Even the time frame of which, even under emergency situations, you were to seclude and the notice and all of those things. So we will be pursuing a complaint with the Office of Civil Rights, the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, and the Department of Justice to do an independent investigation, a real one, not like the one that the Mount Pleasant Public Schools claim to do, and then to hold accountability. There's federal dollars that are spent in school, and not do this type of stuff. It's unlawful and inhumane.
So I was just going to ask you about that, Christina. When you say hold accountability, what are some of the outcomes that your organization is looking for as accountability? Is it to withhold those federal dollars?
Top-down firing of some of the bad actors in Mount Pleasant Public Schools. This is not an isolated incident. We saw these types of practices with Journey Hoffmeyer when they cut her hair at school, where there's this projecting and lack of reflecting, right? They tend to blame the parents or somehow the students, and then claim that they neutrally do independent investigations on themselves. I don't expect to see justice without an external intervention, because the Mount Pleasant Public Schools has shown themselves to be, basically biased when it comes to holding themselves accountable.
99% of New York City school children who were handcuffed in 2016 were Black or Latinx. This happens when school resource officers are called into classrooms to discipline students, sometimes for something as small as violating a dress code or grabbing candy from a teacher's desk. If the offense doesn't lead to an arrest, Black and brown students are still subject to harsher punishments than white students. If the offense doesn't lead to an arrest, Black and brown students are still subject.
When he was stopped by police.
Then they said, we're going to take you to the precinct, and most likely we're going to let you go home, and then I never went home.
13th Amendment to the Constitution makes it unconstitutional for someone to be held as a slave. There are exceptions, including criminals.
Accusations prompted school officials to strip search the 12-year-old on more than one occasion and are the subject, alongside other related incidents, of a $2 million lawsuit filed against Mount Pleasant School District in Mount Pleasant, Michigan, about 70 miles north of Lansing. The lawsuit indicates Johnson's son has often been a victim of racial harassment and bullying in his predominantly white middle school. A couple of students jumped the child, his name is Xavier, in the bathroom, physically put their hands on him and called him racial slurs, Johnson recounted. Johnson says because Mount Pleasant school officials failed to clear up unfounded rumors that her son brought a gun to school. They know he didn't, but they refused to clean it up for him. She could not enroll him in another school, resulting in her moving out of the school district. She hopes her lawsuit against the school, which asks for $2 million in damages and accuses the school of violating Xavier's civil rights and constitutional rights, helps bring some accountability from the school district. Madam, you're doing the right thing here. I'm so sorry that your son and you have to go through this. You are doing the right thing. You got him out of that school system. You realize how damaging it was. And because they refused to give you an exoneration on record, because they refused to say, we are sorry. And you know why? You know why? Because they realized exactly what's coming, a lawsuit. You got to take that one on the chin, school system. It's your fault. This happened numerous times.
Heartbroken, both in the theoretical sense about the rules not being applied, but in the literal sense of the implications of what this means for Xavier, how he'll move through and think about educational systems and spaces. But you've documented, Christina, that this happens in this school district. We did not see justice the first time we tried to appeal for this, and there was a community of those calling for justice. Is there any reason to be optimistic now that there will be external pressure to deliver real accountability?
Well, if we're looking to change hearts, then I don't seem optimistic about that. But I am optimistic about legislating justice. So we can't legislate heart change, but we can definitely pursue and legislate justice, and we will pursue by all means. We do know that this is a particular pernicious, pathological issue in Mount Pleasant Public.
The loophole was immediately exploited. What you got after that was a rapid transition to a mythology of black criminality.
Animals, beasts that needed to be controlled.
You better believe it.
I'm only human.
It became virtually impossible for a politician to run and appear soft on crime.
The kinds of kids that are called super predators.
Millions of dollars will be allocated for prison and jail facilities.
3 strikes and you are out.
Black students are 4 times more likely to be suspended than their white peers. Sometimes students are kicked out of school for basically just being black. Like in cases across the country where black girls were suspended for rocking braids or an afro. So where do students go after they've been kicked out of school? Research shows they're 3 times more likely to end up in the juvenile justice system within a year.
Should have been sued for every time it happened. But let's be real. Madam, they're not advocates for your child. They're not. And the mother receives a real issue. I can't even put my child in another school because they refuse to tell the truth about the fact he never brought a gun on campus. See, that's another policy remedy. There could actually be a policy, a law in that state that says, schools don't get to have that kind of power over a child that's innocent. Will there be one? No. Will Republicans call for one? No. The Democrats call for one? No, they won't.
Thanks for watching. Remember to be limitless, fearless, and relentless. Be bold. All tyrannies rule through fraud and force, but once the fraud is exposed, they must rely exclusively on force. Think about it. Where are you going? Don't forget to hit that like, follow, and share. See you soon.